Good morning, everyone. We're finishing up this week of virtual preschool. And I just realized that I forgot to take a couple things down here, so just a second, don't look. All right, there we go. Now we're all set. So let's figure out what day of the week it is. So the last day of school we had was Wednesday, Thursday. So today is Friday. All right, so let's see here. What is the name of our month? March. Yes, so let's go ahead and count the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and what comes next? 18. All right, let's figure out the pattern. Clover, clover, leprechaun, leprechaun, rainbow, rainbow. Clover, clover, leprechaun, leprechaun, rainbow, rainbow. Yes, so we have a number 18 with a rainbow on it. All right, so that was yesterday. That was a 3's class day, so we need to do one more. 16, 17, 18, what comes next? 19. All right, and let's look at our pattern again. Clover, clover, leprechaun, leprechaun, rainbow, rainbow. What comes next? Clover. Yes, so we have a number 19 with a clover on it. All right, so let's say the whole date. Oh, and I forgot to move the rainbow arrow down to Friday. Whoops. All right, so today is Friday, March 19th, 2021. All right, let's look out the window and see what the weather is like today at your house. So when you look out your window, is it partly cloudy, cloudy, sunny, windy, rainy, stormy, or snowy? And when you step out to feel what the temperature feels like, does it feel burning hot, hot, warm, cool, cold, or freezing cold? All right, so remember to have your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa check their weather app too to tell you what the temperature is, what the number is for the temperature. All right, so this week, oops, and I've got things all out of place today. This week, we've been talking about St. Patrick's Day, right? And this on Monday and Wednesday, we talked about how the leprechauns are little people, right? They like to wear green. They're very sneaky, and they have pots of gold that they like to hide, right? They hide them from us, from the big people. And remember, a lot of them were also cobblers, and we learned that cobblers are people who make shoes. So leprechauns make shoes usually for the fairies, and probably themselves too, right? So let's see, we have another book today, and this book is not about St. Patrick's Day, but it is, does have a leprechaun in it, and it is an old Irish folk tale. All right, so let's see what this book is called. So this is called Jamie O'Rourke and the Big Potato. All right, so before I start reading this book, in another word for potato in other countries is pratty. So in this book, they call potatoes pratties. All right, just so you know what that means in here. All right, so an old Irish folk tale. Jamie O'Rourke was the laziest man in all of Ireland. He would do anything to avoid working, especially if it had to do with growing potatoes, or pratties, right? We'll hear the word pratties later in the story. Jamie O'Rourke, his wife Eileen, would say, We'll have nothing to eat this winter if you don't go out and dig up the praties." "Oh, the saints preserve us," Jamie would whine. "Me back's as sore as can be. Sure as I'm telling you, wife, you'll have to dig 'em up yourself. I'll break in two if I so much as get out of this bed." So Eileen, who had done all the planting and watering and weeding anyhow, would go out to the tiny garden and dig up the smallest potatoes in Ireland, all because Jamie was too lazy to dig a larger garden and had no money to buy potato seed. So there are the tiny little potatoes that she dug up. So this is definitely not a good situation here. They got little tiny potatoes. Then poor Eileen wrenched her back and was laid up in bed. St. Bridget and the Virgin Mary herself must have smiled on Eileen O'Rourke, the village woman said. Why, it's the first rest she's had since she married Jamie O'Rourke. With Eileen in bed, Jamie began to worry. No Eileen to dig meant no praties all winter, and no praties meant no food. "Oh, poor me," wailed Jamie. "I'll starve to death. I'd best go to church and confess to Father O'Malley. There's no telling how soon old Death will be knocking on me door." So even though it was midnight, Jamie set out for the church. He was about halfway down the hill when he heard singing and a tap, tap, tapping sound. What could this be? "Sure, and I wouldn't be knowin'," Jamie whispered, "but I swear it's a leprechaun." And sure enough, sitting in a circle of ferns in the moonlight was a leprechaun singing and hammering tiny nails into the heels of the fairy boots he was making. Jamie knew just what to do. He crept up and grabbed the little man by his coattails and held him firm. Let me go, the leprechaun shouted. "Not on your life," Jamie said. "Not until you show me where you keep your pot of gold." Now everyone in Ireland knows that leprechauns make boots and dancing shoes for the fairies, who pay for them with gold. And everyone knows that if you catch a leprechaun, he'll pay for his freedom with his pot of gold. But this leprechaun was cleverer than most. "Oh, please, Mr. Mortal Man," he pleaded. "I'm just starting out making fairy shoes, and I only have 1 or 2 pieces of gold in my pot. Won't you take a wish instead?" "Why, what would I wish for?" Jamie asked. "Me who's about to die of starvation because my wife is sick in bed and can't dig the praties for the winter. And they're such puny praties anyhow." "Well," said the leprechaun, reaching into his pocket, "you could wish for the biggest pratie in the world. It would last all winter, and you wouldn't have to do anything more than plant this seed, water it, and wait." That sounded wonderful to Jamie. "Done!" he shouted. And as the leprechaun dropped the seed into Jamie's hand, Jamie let go of his coattails, and off that leprechaun scampered. When Eileen heard what he had done, she was furious. "Jamie O'Rourke, you're not only the laziest man in Ireland, but a fool as well. Giving up a pot of gold for a pratie seed? Well, I'm going to plant this seed and water it, and you'll see," Jamie said, and out he went. And faith Eileen did see. In no time at all, the biggest, finest potato plant had sprouted out of the ground, followed by the potato itself. It was so big it pushed up not only all the dirt in the garden, but the garden shed and the corner of the cottage as well. "Well, surely now it's ready to dig," Jamie said proudly. He hoed all around it, but he couldn't dig that pratie out of the ground. He got a beam and a big rock and tried to pry it out. He pushed and he pushed, but it wouldn't budge. As he was pondering what to do, his neighbor passed by on his way to the village. He couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't wait to tell everyone in the village what he had seen. And before you knew it, the hill up to Jamie's was filled with villagers coming to see the big potato. Where did it come from? They asked. Jamie told them about the lucky night he had caught the leprechaun and how smart he had been. Why, anyone could have gotten a pot of gold, he bragged, but the biggest pratie in the world, well, that took some doing. However did you outsmart a leprechaun? They all asked at once. Jamie hesitated and scratched his head. We'll help you dig up your pratie, Jamie, if you'll tell us how you did it. And they grabbed shovels and hoes and started to dig. They dug and they pushed and they shoved until the potato flew up out of its hole. It rolled down the hill faster and faster until it reached the bottom, where it bounced up high and came to a stop, wedged between the stone walls on either side of the road. What to do now? That pratie is so big that no one, no cart, nothing can get by it, the constable complained to Father O'Malley. How's a body to get in or out of the village? What shall we do? The villagers wailed. Then they all looked at Jamie and said, It's your pratie, you'll have to move it out of our way. Well, Eileen spoke up, there's more than enough pratie for everyone. Why don't you all take some? So the villagers sawed and chopped and carted off huge pieces of potato while Jamie sat on the stone wall and watched. All winter long, everyone had potato to eat, and eat, and eat, until no one wanted to see or hear of potato again. In the spring, Jamie said, I saved a potato eye for a seed, and it's just about time to plant it. Oh no, the villagers all cried. If you promise not to plant it, Jamie, we'll promise before St. Patrick and all the saints to see that you and Eileen always have plenty to cook and eat. We don't want another giant pratie around here. Jamie smiled and agreed. What a perfect life for a lazy man. And so you see, darling Eileen, Jamie told her, I wasn't such a fool with that leprechaun after all. And Eileen had to admit that Jamie O'Rourke was right. And there's the leprechaun with his pot of gold. He still did trick Jamie O'Rourke, didn't he? The leprechaun did, because he did have a big pot of gold. But in the end, it ended up working out for Jamie and Eileen, because now the villagers are going to take care of making sure they have enough food to eat. All right, so we have a couple things today. We have a game called 1st to 20. Now, when I printed this, I didn't think about making more than one copy of the game board. So you can make more copies of this if you want to play with more than one person. All right, so what you're going to do is if you have a die at home, you can use that. If not, you can put this one together, okay, to make a die. And I don't have it, I forgot to grab a die at preschool, so I'm just going to pretend to roll one, all right? Well, you also need something to mark your spots off with. So I'm going to pretend to roll the die. Roll, and the first time I got a 5. So I'm going to put 5 markers on here. So 1 on each number. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then I'm going to roll again. And this time I got a 6. So I'm going to put 6 on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will keep either rolling myself and covering them up just to play yourself, or if you're playing with somebody else, you take turns rolling the die, and whoever gets to 21st, covers up all the numbers to 21st, is the winner. All right? And then we also have another rhyming, match game like we did before. All right, so this one has 2 boards just like before. Oh, itchy nose. And then the cards, okay? So you're going to pick up a card, and let's see here. So this is a goat, all right? So let's see here. Ladybug, goat. Remember, we're finding the rhymes. Shell, goat. Fox, goat. Boat, goat. Those rhyme. Boat and goat. So I'm going to put the goat under the boat. All right. And we also have a bell. So let's see if we can find the rhyme to that one. Ladybug, bell. Shell, bell. Those rhyme too, so I'll put the bell under the shell. All right, so we have a bunch of cards here. You're going to match them all up. If your mom or dad or you do not know what some of the pictures are, it gives you the clue or the key, the answer key right here, so you know what each of the pictures are. All right, so that is what I have to share with you today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget about packet pickup between 10 and noon today. I hope to see most of you there. And have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.